Hi there, Dr. Gary here on the road. We sell dental practices nationwide. We are dental practice brokers. I was a dentist for 25 years and now doing the dental practice brokerage for 14. So today's topic is total confusion at the closing of a dental practice sale. There's another great story. Before we get into that, as you know, we have 10 employees. We're in 22 states, and we're available to you 363 days a year. We take off Christmas and Easter. That's it. We work from 8 a.m. till 9 p.m. every day, and our phones are answered. Even if I'm over in Europe or in South Pacific, the phones are answered. So call us. Even if you want to chat, you want some free advice, we're happy to help you out. Just let us know. We can take care of you. Now, the information you're about to hear is for entertainment purposes only. It's not legal or business advice. If you're thinking about selling to one of those DSOs, call us, Corporate Dentistry, because we work with them all. We know who is solid financially, who will go to closing, who won't, who's going to give you who's going to give you a hard time at the end, who's going to have the worst contract to deal with. Believe me, we work with them all the time. Now, the good news is they often will pay our commission. So generally, there's no commission to the seller. So, you're better off working with us. We'd be more than happy to help you out, take care of everything, and it would just work out great, but no commission. So please give us a call, and we'll take care of everything for you. Now, also, if you work with us, generally, there is large practices, $1 million or more. There's no commission. All right, we basically no commission. Also, no legal fees. Your legal fees will be reimbursed upon successful closing. Obviously, you got to go to closing, but we'll reimburse them based on some minor criteria. Now, that's practices of grossing over $1 million. We'll reimburse the seller's legal fees. Now, also, as we proceed forward, this was, oh man, what a mess this dental closing was. It was confusion, it was chaos, the timetables were wrong, buyers ready to walk away. It's like everything that could go wrong went wrong. And we were fortunate to have great dental attorneys. The bank, questionable. I don't like that bank at all. We don't want to mention names. I don't think that's fair to anybody. But I'm not working with this bank again. And this is a fairly large bank. So, excuse me, I need some sunglasses. We got a beautiful day in New Jersey. Woo! I should be going to the beach. Anyway, so I don't even know where to start. We had a scheduled closing, okay? And everything was looking good a couple days ahead. The problem started, the bank did not inform the buyer of all the extra fees. Now, there was some extra stuff going on here because two leasing companies, I think it was, had to be paid off upon closing. So there was some more extra documentation, some more paperwork. Things had to be handled properly. The buyer did not get informed. Again, you have a dental closing. You had lease have to be signed up. You had two lenders from the leasing company that had to be paid off at closing. So there was a fair number of moving parts with this situation, a little bit more than normal. But the bank should have been used to this. What should have happened is a week ahead of time, even if they didn't have the numbers that the buyer would have to bring to closing or have ready or be able to wire at closing or at least be informed, they could have given the buyer a approximate outline. You're going to have this fee, this extra fee here, this fee, that fee. Outline everything. Just outline it. But it wasn't outlined. So the buyer finds out, and don't forget, you're paying off two leasing companies also. Now, that wasn't of the buyer's responsibility. It was really the seller, but it comes out of the closing numbers. So the night before closing, all of this extraneous costs was sent to the buyer. the night before, late. This is very late that it happened. So you had the leasing company sending it in, you had the landlord sending something in, you had the bank sending in certain fees and so forth. And it was like, what is going on here? The buyer was shocked. It was far more money than they thought. There was also a miscalculation of how much the buyer actually owed. There was a miscalculation there. So that number was wrong. So not only was the buyer hit with all these fees, because the buyer had also paid some earlier fees to the bank, and it was miscalculation just how much the buyer owed. I mean, it was a nightmare. The buyer was panicking. The buyer's husband got involved. The buyer started saying, well, I'm not paying. I don't know if I'm going to go to closing now. We did all this work, and the buyer's starting to back off on closing. Generally, it doesn't happen. They threaten, but it was just confusion. So you figured, okay, let's get that together. So the closing did not occur in that day. Then we're into the next week, and then I have to talk to the buyer over the weekend, make sure the buyer's comfortable, bring the buyer down. Fortunately, I was on the beach, so I was kind of relaxed when I was talking, but still, it was a headache. How to bring the buyer back down to earth, explain why the fees weren't explain why the fees weren't forwarded to him, the doctor, ahead of time, maybe a week ahead of time. Even if they only had approximate fees, you should have sent it to the buyer about paying off the two leasing companies, which is the seller's responsibility, but the buyer had to be aware of it. And all this moving parts, there's so many. So the closing doesn't occur on a Friday. Now it gets delayed to who knows. So now Monday comes along, the buyer's feeling better. Okay, let's try to put something together. So Monday morning, there's more confusion, but finally Monday afternoon, after all that, you would think, okay, we're all right, everything's set, right? So finally closes. Now came to the disbursements. So the seller has to get paid. I, as the broker, got to get paid. The two leasing companies have to get paid. That's where the confusion started getting crazy, and this bank screwed it up. So what the bank did is the seller got their electronic wire. My electronic wire, along with the leasing company's wires, never went out to them. Now, this should have been a coordinated effort on the bank's behalf. But the bank said, well, we really don't handle the dental closing, but the fees for the leasing company is going to go to a different department. They're going to handle that differently. I'm like, what? So we're racing it. We just had the closing today. This is like a Monday or a Tuesday. Maybe it's a Tuesday. We're racing to get the closing done. This goes on and on. So they finally do that. The seller gets paid. I don't get paid. So on a Tuesday, at the closing on a Tuesday, Monday or Tuesday, I don't get paid on Tuesday. They said, well, it's in compliance. I was like, what bull is that? So next, the next thing I know is no wires go out, no payments to me, no payments to the vendors. The vendors are being pissed. Like, where's my money? That's my equipment has to be paid off. I said, I don't know. The bank says, oh, we're on top of it. We're on top of it. Get tied up with compliance. That says BS. Get tied up with compliance. So 24 hours later, I still didn't get my wire. They said, we're on it. We're going to take care of it. Then finally, 48 hours later, I get my wire and payment of my commission. 48 hours later. It should have been done the same day, but that's okay. At least I finally got it. I said, what happened with the vendors? They said, oh, the vendors would piggyback with yours. They should have theirs already. I start making calls. The vendor wasn't paid in 48 hours. Nobody paid the vendor. Two vendors had to be paid, the two leasing companies. Nobody paid them. So they're yelling, hey, they have my equipment and I'm not paid. So they're yelling. I mean, it was unbelievable. Now, finally, I get on, what's going on with the vendors? Well, we didn't have, that's with a different department, because that's the business relations department, have to take care of that. I said, well, where is the money? I said, well, we thought it was sent out to you. It was never sent to the vendors. Never sent to the vendors. Then finally, to get it together this morning, I get a email, okay, vendors being paid, checks going out to them. I'm like, what? The vendor gave you the wire instructions. And they say, no, we never received the wire instructions. All we have is the bank. All we have is the vendor's invoice. Just a different section of the bank. All we have is a vendor's invoice, and all we have is an address. There's no wire, so we're obligated only to send him a FedEx to his address. I mean, could you believe this? This goes on and on. Complete and total mass confusion. Now, we're now waiting for the vendor's check. It's supposed to be there tomorrow. Let's see if that happens. Whoa, oh boy. So you can't relax with these deals. 5 minutes after the closing, you could begin to exhale. But if you don't have the money in the account, you haven't closed. Has to be in the account of the vendors, of the broker, and the attorneys. If you don't have the money in the account, it's not going anywhere. So that's what happened. Just crazy. Absolutely crazy. And I've known this for 14 years. I relied on other people. I figured they know what they're doing. Because the wires were sent, the instructions were sent, everything was double-checked, and then it was mass confusion upon the dental closing. This stuff happens. You got to be ready for this. I, as the broker, jumped in there, managed everything I could, got in touch with the second portion of the bank who handles the payoff for the loan equipment. I had great attorneys. We were lucky, but they got busy and things too, so I had to do this myself. It was a freaking nightmare. One of the attorneys did jump in and gave their opinion and tried to help out. That was a big help. But it's not easy. Never think you're closing when they say you're closing. Never think that it's after the closing it's all done. It's when the wires hit the payer's account, with myself, the broker, or the doctor that's selling. That's it. It's not over until the wires hit your account. Aggravating, I know, but that's what I go through all the time. Luckily, I had the methodology to put this together, and who said what. This one said this. Finally, I got it together. Now, hopefully tomorrow, the vendor gets their check by FedEx. I don't even know if that will happen, but at least I got the tracking number now. So, this is another day in the life of a broker. Bye now.